Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Speak Plainly podcast, where we speak plainly about things that matter. I am your host, Owl Medicine, author of Rethinking Broken, host of this podcast, founder of Decolonize Healthcare, and today I am here to talk to you about something I never talk about: politics. Recently, I heard this quote that said, "If you don't fuck with politics, it's because politics doesn't fuck with people you love." And damn, ooh, that one, that's so good. So I wanted to take a minute to talk about this recent video that I saw. This video was of a representative from Texas. His name is Keith Self. I had to Google him because it was just a clip on Instagram, so of course there's no context, and it just said REP Self, and I was like, what? Anyway, when I Googled it, I found his name and found who he was, his website, all that kind of stuff. And the video that I saw that made me start all of this was a video of him rescinding a few of his minutes to give somebody else some time, which great, awesome, because it was Congress in session. And then he opened with a quote, or well, I guess closed with a quote, because that's when he rescinded his time. And he wanted to share a quote from a guy that was a literal Nazi. He quoted Joseph Goebbels. Goebbels is a very well-known Nazi. He was a Nazi politician. He was also the direct leader of Berlin and the chief propagandist for the Nazi Party. He was the Reich Minister of Propaganda from 1933 to 1945. So this representative from Texas decides to quote this guy. And the quote that this Texas senator said, and I don't think he even knows, like, this is the thing. Republicans, especially in Texas, are not well educated and I'm not saying that all of them are dumb. All of this is like, these are generalizations, but there is a correlation of a higher education, which there are lots of problems with, and Democrat or being a liberal, and lower education leading to more conservative views. So anyway, probably doesn't know that Goebbels was like the Nazi, but he shared this quote anyway. And so this is what he decided to share in Congress, in session, in Texas. Starting it off by quoting a Nazi, he says, "It is the absolute right of the state to control the formation of public opinion." The absolute right of the state to control the formation of public opinion. Holy shit. If that isn't Nazi, I don't know what is. So here's my thoughts as a independent leftist to the extreme or whatever. I've said it 1,000 times. The left has gone right and the right's gone crazy. There is no left in the politics. There are centrists who are pretending to be left. But here's my confusion and my, not even confusion, but my rub. Who do you hate more? Do you hate the Nazis who are like loud and proud about being Nazis, or do you hate the Nazis that deny being Nazis? Is it more appropriate to hate Nazis that are proud about being a Nazi, or to hate the Nazis that are being paid to be Nazis and do all of the same Nazi shit, but then are like, oh, Nazis are bad? And I almost want to say that, like, the Democrats are who you should hate more. Like, that's who we should hate more in this on at least for me, on a moral disgust thing. But, like, wow. I think it's only the like the public opinion on Democrats actually being left that prevents them from being more Nazi-like. And I only say that because I'm about to move through a series of thoughts to tie a bunch of stuff together with all of this. But I say that because the real power is not the right or the left. The real power are the people who funded the campaigns. And we're going to get there. But, like, with Democrats, we'll start with them. Democrat politicians are bought and paid for. They are a bought and paid for lame dog that promises almost nothing and delivers even less. But, like, at least they're not doing Nazi salutes. They're not quoting Nazis in Congress in session. But if you look at the big deals, things that I consider to be big deals, like wealth inequality and affordable housing and private prisons, that sort of stuff, if you look at all of those sorts of things, they stay the same, no matter who's in office. Illegal war, or like racketeering and profiteering, all of that stays the same no matter who's in office, left or right. And if you look at the top donors to any election, it's the same companies on both sides, maybe to differing degrees, but all of these major multi-billion-dollar companies, and now they're multi-trillion-dollar companies, and we'll get there in a second. But we're only talking about billion-dollar companies, and we're having the wrong discussion because there's one company that we should be talking about that handles $10 trillion. That's literally 10 million times $1 million. Like, if you were to take $1 million, which is an obscene amount of money for, like, a regular person, I don't know what that looks like, but that, like, it's still, like, kind of feasible to think about. I can think of what $1 million is. Billion, that's crazy. 10 trillion? That's literally 10 million millions. And BlackRock controls $10 trillion of assets, and they invest in everything, including all of these major elections. So the things that actually matter, they don't change, and this is the issue. This is where it's like, who do I hate more? If we just pay attention to what's going on Facebook and what's going on the news, it's the left versus the right, do this, do that, do this, do that, and we're pushing and pulling on what is more important socially. And we really have some influence on, like, 3 to 7 total, like, of all the things that we can have any influence on as the public, pushing back on our politicians, like, maybe 3 to 7 total topics. Abortion, like, women's rights, trans rights. Now, like, they're constantly pushing our attention to these smaller things that do matter. And that's why we stay in this back and forth battle, because these smaller things do matter. Trans lives matter. Black lives matter. But you know what matters more? All lives, and all of our lives are at risk. All of us are getting screwed because the same laws keep getting passed that we're not being told to pay attention to, so we don't see them. So when I saw this guy do the Nazi thing, I immediately went to go make a Facebook post about it, but then I remembered that I promised myself I wouldn't do political Facebook posts as much, if at all, anymore, and that I would instead try to do a podcast about them, which is going to change the topics of my podcasts some. I mostly stick to trauma, but this is very, very real. I just saw another video of an Auschwitz survivor in a town hall calling out the ICE chairman and being like, yo, dude, fuck you. This is terrible. You're doing Nazi shit. And so the question is like, yeah, let's be mad at the Nazis, but we have to remember that, like, the guy, that weird little alien-looking motherfucker, doing Nazi salutes twice on stage and then, like, denying it and, like, whatever. They're literal fucking Nazis. His grandparents were literal fucking Nazis. Is anybody surprised he's a Nazi? No. Nazis are just fascists. That's it. They're just nationalist fascists. And fascism, I believe, is, like, the common denominator with all human beings. That's the lowest common denominator. That's, like, what we will reduce ourselves ourselves down to if we just let our body make those biological decisions that I talk about in trauma. Our conditioning, our fear conditioning and our trauma conditioning makes us make decisions. Our subconscious brain makes decisions for us that we then afterward rationalize consciously, but it's our bodies making these decisions for us. I call those biological decisions. If you let biological decisions run your life after you've been exposed to trauma or chronic stress and pain and damage and hurt, then you're going to go down the path of fascism, because that's just like self-protective stuff. Like, do what I can to make me survive. That's basic biology. There's nothing special about that. That's the natural direction, I think, that we are going to go. So I think it's important to resist that. So I kind of like hate the Democrats more in this, even though that was disgusting and I hated watching it. At least I'm watching it. Do you know what I mean? Like, at least I'm seeing it. And I said that when Trump got elected the first time. I was shocked. And I was the first time in a long time I'd been shocked by politics. And kind of just decided after that I wouldn't be shocked anymore. And I really haven't been shocked since. It's just been the same old crap. But when Trump got elected the last time, I was like, it's not the president I wanted, but it's the president America deserves. And I think this is the difference between like liberals and leftists. The liberals really still believe in reform, and leftists know that, or extremists, whatever you want to call us, we know it's got to be revolution. We need a complete like upheaval of everything, because the things that matter, again, don't change no matter who's in office. Whether you have a Nazi salute on television, Nazi, or if you give me enough insider information to trade and make a fuckload of money on the stock markets, then I'll go ahead and pass your tasteless bill. Why not? And I bring that up specifically because I recently found out that there was an investigation done on how in the world are all of these politicians arriving into office as like upper middle class and leaving multimillionaires. And there's only one real answer. It's tons and tons and tons of insider trading. And I'll do an episode on that because I just watched a bunch of really good stuff recently where they did quite a bit of science, where they started looking at what public information there was, who met who, where, and when, what investments they make. There's actually an app now that will tell you exactly what every single lawmaker, every single investment they make, when they make it in real time, which is crazy. But these lawmakers they have like a 12% return on their stocks, which is mad because the world's best stock investor is Warren Buffett, and his return is 3.5%. That's one of the reasons, that was the biggest reason they decided to look into further detail the insider trading of politicians and look at the time frames of when people are meeting and who they're meeting and what investments they're doing and all of that stuff. But hey, it's just how things are done. And that's the bottom line. America has been a fascist country that has been run by Nazis for a long time. We're just now seeing the salutes. As much as I want to hate this senator for being a fucking Nazi and literally quoting like the Nazi philosopher, like the fucking guy, Goebbels, like if the balls or the ignorance, probably the latter, like the ignorance of being able to show up in Congress as an elected official during this time and start this off by quoting a literal Nazi. Like, wow. I feel like he's definitely going to be part of that 40% of America who has less than a 6th grade reading level. He certainly hasn't read anything since 6th grade, at least not about Nazi history, if he doesn't know who Goebbels is. But anyway, I digress. That's gross. But isn't it more gross to be bought off by the exact same people and do the exact same things. Like Obama dropped more bombs than Bush did, but we call Bush a war criminal. Biden too. Biden dropped just as many. Like, we're constantly bombing everyone around the world because these mega corporations, and most of us, when we think about mega corporations doing this, that, and the other, we're thinking, us regular people, what are our mega corporations? We're looking at Facebook and Instagram. We're looking at Tesla. We're looking at Amazon. We're looking at the Bezoses and the Zuckerbergs and the Musks. And the thing is like, obviously Musk is the guy who's there right now. But then there's also people like BlackRock that dwarf the amount of wealth that Elon Musk has. They dwarf it, the amount of wealth that they move. Elon Musk has his billions of dollars and is slated to be the world's first trillionaire. But you have independent private investment companies like BlackRock that are moving and maintaining $10 trillion worth of wealth. That's an obscene amount of money. And those people are the people in power. And it becomes less obvious because they have shell within shell within shell within shell within shell. And when you have that $10 trillion, you're invested in a billion different things. And every single one of those things has a different title because every single one is a different company. And maybe it's a shell company within a company or an umbrella company. And there's umbrellas underneath umbrellas underneath umbrellas. And each one of them are all different corporations that can all do donations. So when you're looking at like who is investing in who's going to become president, because that's what they're doing, they're not idiots. They're investing. They're hedging those bets. That's why they're playing both sides. They're investing. They know that if they can control the rules, they win. That's how the world works. So I wanted to talk to you about Nazis in America. What in the world is going on? Why are we seeing all of these Nazis? It's because they've always existed, and hate the Nazis. Fuck the Nazis. Punch a Nazi in the face. But remember that it's not just the people doing Nazi salutes on television that are Nazis. It's also your weak, spineless Democratic senators and representatives. They are, in my opinion, more immoral, more weak, and more pathetic because they're attempting to or trying to say that they are taking the high road and they are morally superior, and then money separates them from their morality the same way money separates fascists from their morality. They're just more plain about it. Thank you for listening to this episode. If you liked it, consider buying me a coffee. Go check out owlchrysalismedicine.com to see what I'm up to. Thank you for your time, and remember, stay curious and stay uncomfortable.